Hi everyone, I would like to introduce the speakers for our Independent Art Spaces Roundtable Talk, Catherine Lau, Yim Shui-Fong, Juliana Chen, Daniel Stamford, and Kim Lam. Please enjoy it.
Okay. Okay, it's on. Yeah. So maybe I can start. Just introduce. Introduce myself a little bit. I'm Juliana. I'm the manager at One A Space. Yeah.
I'm Kim Lam. I'm the founder of Parallel Space in Sham Shui Po. Yeah.
I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of a space called Feierabend in Tai Kok Tsui.
I'm Kathleen Lau, and I'm the founder of Mascari in Fortress Hill.
Hi, my name is Shui Fong, and I'm a co-founder of Rooftop Institute, which is founded by artists run. Yeah.
Cool. So we were just there chatting about your space, which has a very unique name. Maybe you can remind me of your name and the meaning of it.
Well, the name of the space is Feierabend. I kind of only found out after I said the name that it's tricky for a lot of people to pronounce or to remember.
Yeah.
But it's the name is in reference to Paul Feierabend, who was an Austrian philosopher of science. Who I don't think I would go too much into this part, but the name Feierabend or the word Feierabend also has a meaning in German, and that is it's kind of like after hours or the end of something, the end of the day, and all of those references kind of played a role when I said the name. And I have to say the space is also my studio, or is part of my studio. So after hours also refers a bit to when I'm able to to have people come over and see exhibitions. It's not only after hours, but it is a bit outside of business hours. Yeah.
So people can't just walk in; they have to book ahead of time.
They have to book ahead of time, which also the space. Feierabend is the youngest space here. It only opened half a year ago, so it opened during the pandemic, and it was basically the only way to get it started was to really try to spread out visitors and have individual visits. I'm not sure if I would have done it that way if it had started at another point in time, like if it would have been possible to just have public hours. But so far it turned out to be a good decision, I think. Yeah.
So that must be very different from Parallel Space, which is in the very busy hub of Sham Shui Po.
Right. Yes. We are in Dynam Street, but in the beginning, the street is quite quiet. Actually, it's in the 2018. Yes, is not much people know about that there is a gallery in Dynam Street. I think I'm the third gallery shop there, and then there is a couple cafe there, and then a Farm Society that Wang Tinyan set up in 2017. Yeah, I think I'm the third on the ground shop gallery exhibition space there. So maybe people, we spent like 2 years to establish, and at the same time in the pandemic, Hong Kong from the 2020 is everywhere. Stopped outside, and then we all the shop in Dynam Street. We kind of independent shop that we don't run the business like the outside corporate. We all the people make the effort to their own shops. So we don't stop anything. We still do the exhibition. Even everything stopped in Hong Kong. So even the cafe, so everybody is coming to Dynam Street at that 2 years to make it like a something happened in Hong Kong 2 years ago. Yeah, to everybody, like the youth, the young people, especially during the post-protest period, you know, yeah, we got quite a lot of exhibitions about the social movement. Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. It does feel like there's a sense of solidarity that is built out of the collaboration with art spaces and also cafes and exhibitions.
I don't collaborate with any cafe because
okay.
I mainly do exhibitions, and from painting to illustration and ceramic. I also, Palace Space also rent the space for the people. They would like to show their artworks or activities there. Yeah, so half of the events that happen in Palace Space was a rental, but I will help them to work it out on the at the space, and then I do quite a lot of advice to them. Yeah, right. So it's more like a it's probably it's not just a gallery. It's more than gallery because we do everything. Yeah, yeah, right.
Juliana, how about your organization? 1A Space is the longest history now, I mean, among us
Yeah.
as an art organization.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of unique in the sense that, well, we used to be an oil street, which is a different oil, Yao Gai right now. But well, as an organization that was founded in 1998, we spend most of the time in Cattle Depot, which is quite an interesting neighborhood because, it sort of fits in very well with a lot of the community project we do. So I guess for some independent space, like a physical space is important, but maybe for others, like the lack of a physical space, it can be also one of the characteristics. So, but for us, in Cattle Depot has been great, Yeah. What about Miss Gallery? Because being in Fulei Loy is quite an interesting spot.
Oh yeah, it's actually Miss Gallery is started in 2021 because I think it's somehow a response to the social environment of 2019 and also because of isolation of the pandemic. So that's why I just think about what art can we do at that time. And somehow I think having a space together, artists, maybe community maybe had become one of the approach for having art there. Yeah. So
Can I ask you, Miss Gallery is in a mall. Were you looking specifically for this type of space, or was this just something you found and it was available, or
Actually, you maybe can say it is a timing, a sense of timing that you have to react for something by using a space. And I think also maybe I see an advertising from the social media because some kind of there's a guy say they want to having a ventilating projects there, and they just want to how to make a dead more alive. So I think this is somehow why Miss is there, maybe, but without any planning, just only the timing for having that. Yeah.
For Rooftop Institute, actually, when me and three artists, we are the founder, is Professor Frank Fion and Mila, and also Yok Mui. And my practice is more about many media, but more about images, sound, and installations. But then when we keep our practice, somehow we feel exhibition in a form more about your individual expressions. But as an artist, if we want to join the community or to connect with society, what else can we do besides your practice? So me and Yok Mui just thinking, education and learning is a way to can share the idea more broadly, not just maybe the final outcome, but in between the creative practice, as you all may know, is a lot of things to happen. How you research, how you interact with people, So this process is very interesting. That's why we found Rooftop Institute. The name is original from Rooftop School in Hong Kong public housing in the 50s and 60s. So we want to do two things: Asia cultural exchange among Asia, and also workshops. So exhibition and space is kind of our byproduct. Is And then, but gradually, when we started in 2016 is our first program, but today is 5 years. We find that we are more tend to be focused on artist-led education. So we invite the artists. I want to ask you, how do you collaborate with artists? Because for us is more gradually we ask the artists why we form a space, form an organization. It's more like a community. We want to invite them to change their role. For example, be an educator today, artist as educator. What will you want to share? Or not just you teach things. It's more like a mutual learning, a learning process. Or today you have children, artists as parents, artist parents. What will you use your communication, your way to contribute to family education? Something like this. So our program is more diverse, and the space-wise is very varies. It may be in a community, in a public park, or among a group of people, or in a very popular exhibition. So how about Kim? As you are fashion background, how do you feel when you collaborate with artists?
When I first thinking about running a art space, I don't have any academic creation or background. That I'm not from the art school. I was a fashion designer. I was very. The reason why I pick up the location in Sham Shui Po because I know the space. I like Sham Shui Po, the old district in Hong Kong, and then there is a lot of memories of mine. And then the rental is low at the beginning when I got the shop. It's even lower than the industrial building. That's why I want to try to have a space in the shop, and then because I just knew for me to pick up artists to show in the space, I don't have much limitation. The first show I co-create with Keith Lam, the founder of Open Ground. We just have a name. It's called Multiverse.
Multiverse.
Yes, and then we just group. It's a group show that we ask different category artists, from painter, illustration, digital artists, and then we sold print work, actual painting, digital work, and then we want to show that actually artwork doesn't have to be categorized into. We want to break the boundary of the works that can be sold together. Something like that. So this is also the very subjective of how I start parallel space, because I don't have any rules. Like I don't have any background to gallery systems things. So I want to try any things that can be possible to happen in the art space. Yes.
How about Daniel? You are an artist too. Why you form a space for work with artists?
Why did I open the space?
Yeah.
Well, I have to say first, even though the Hong Kong space is pretty new, I used to run a space in Frankfurt in Germany before for a couple of years, So that I started after graduating from art school. So in a way, it always has been a part of my practice. On some level out of necessity, because I think it's less true now, but at least when I started, my own work was very like ephemeral, a lot with smoke and water, and like there was just there was no real space to use, or you know, like I just wanted to create something to give a forum to a certain type of work. And then, well, when it comes to Hong Kong, like for instance, if 1A space would be one end of the spectrum, what I didn't tell you earlier, I visited 1A space when I was a tourist in Hong Kong, when I visited the first time, so that was a long time ago. Whereas my own project is like, it's much smaller. When starting it, I was thinking, well, what could I bring that could be interesting to other people, or to the scene in Hong Kong. One thing I thought about originally, the concept of the mixture of the exhibition was supposed to be a mix of like half Hong Kong local artists and half people from abroad. I have to say, the first time I came to Hong Kong, I came on an artist residency, so I thought somebody in the same situation as I was back then, like those people I could show, like I don't have the budget to fly in people from someplace, but if I know, okay, somebody's here, maybe worked on a project for a couple of months and needs a place to show and kind of get a bit of a dialogue going between people from the outside and people from Hong Kong. For obvious reasons, that's not how it turned out, because like there is nobody coming from the outside, and so at some point I just decided not to wait any longer and just get started. And then one thing that, since I did not do my education in Hong Kong, and I I'm not really tied to any art school here, like that is maybe a big difference from when I did more or less the same thing in Frankfurt. Back then I kind of knew everybody's work, and I knew a lot of people over years in school, whereas here having this space is also a bit of an education for me in a sense, like people drop by and see stuff and actually you should meet this person, and you should maybe Yeah.
So I think one of the questions that in the fishbowl was, are there a lot of alternative or independent art spaces in Hong Kong, and what is the relationship? And what I was thinking about that, I realized there are, like, we only represent like really the tip of the iceberg, right? There's so many more. There's like Ijar, there's Wurei area, and there's so many collaborations in between, and each sort of carved out a niche for themselves, and each satisfy a different type of art practices and audience. So it doesn't really matter, like a diversified background is actually a plus to what you can bring to the table.
Also, I think there's a certain or diversity happens in the collection between different projects. Like you can't, especially if you do some things on a small scale, you have to be pretty restrictive. Like, or that's I don't want to sound like that's true for everybody, but the way I see it, if you have to put a focus in somehow, and not not try to do everything, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
For me, I think there certainly have some kind of lack of something. That's why some art organization will come out, and this is independent. They want to do something else. For example, Miss, I think is very unique. I mean, in the shopping mall have the art space, and Kim is not from art, but also contribute in this. I think this is very very good in a way for me. Even though the rent is so expensive to sustain, but I want to talk about the sustainability. Like, what is the, how do you sustain as an organization, and why we want to do it in a meaning way? What is, for me is, I feel, because I grew up in Hong Kong and education in Hong Kong, I feel that art is still in like a small group people thing. You have education, even you have education in art. The exhibition space is limited, or maybe the audience, they are, there's no audience. Can something like this. So my sustainability idea is, if we have do some, if artists join force to do art education, it will be different from art education taught by someone else. So I think, or if we can have more people, more critical audience, or the audience already have, I'm not saying I want them to become artists, or they are the one who also understand or to appreciate art. Then this is one kind of sustainability for me, is the ecology. But actually, today's topic is about art space. Rooftop Institute originally no space yet. We have friends, so network. So in the beginning we have venue sponsor from other organization. Then we have a program there, and then we have the Hong Kong. We have the government funding. Then we rent a space, but still very low price in an affordable sponsor space. And then we have and then every year we renew the funding, and then this year we have so little funding, so we don't have space. Because the rent is so high, we rather the money give for people, because it's people is more important. It's where the content, where everything, rather than the hardware. So we didn't have space this year. We do research, and then in order to reveal what we are doing and then go ahead. It's not just keep doing things, but stop and think, and So, so I'm really respectful opening a space, because it's very hard. Maybe Miss, you can share your joy and the good and difficult thing.
Actually, I think how to sustain a space may be questions for all independent art space in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is well known high rental price, and most of the independent art space, they cannot survive for more than 2 years or 3 years, I guess, in the history.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, from our beginning, we bought venue sponsor from things that can happen. This is already gone. It's 2 years project, and then what else? 100 square feet. Yeah. And also the sewage school in North Point.
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons that I have to think about, there is a possible way and a new way for running an independent art space? Because for me, I'm trying not to rely on government funding or subsidies. I try to not rely on something like that. I try to, can I work on myself? So I think a kind of business mode in our gallery is partly what we believe. So we sell artwork at the beginning, but somehow we have changed a bit. But we were starting to think another stage is how we can sustain instead just selling artwork, because even we cannot cover all the budget of that. Even we can sell artwork. So we have trying to maybe establish a virtual online shop. Miss Shop is coming, I guess. So this is another way to finding sustainable method to how a independent art space can be sustained in Hong Kong. Not just only for running a physical art space, but how we can push the limitations to make art space survive, or can it be something change of the concept of independent art space in Hong Kong, because somehow independent art space maybe in the 60s there will be some concept of dematerialization of the art market, but now it's a bit change, and I think it's some kind of they have some Hong Kong style independent art space. I don't know other places, but yeah, this is what I think about of how to sustain.
So is your gallery still selling artwork?
Yeah, we selling artwork. Yeah, but I think quite depend on artists. But now we have a little bit change because we are not aim at being a gallerist. We just give the baited profit to artists, and we get the profit, the left of that to sustain our space. And because we hope that we are a platform for emerging artists, but also I don't know for future if it could be involve other generation artists. I think this is really important for the conversation between generation. But at this stage, I can only do that. So I forget what I'm saying.
I so remember your show not just limited in gallery. You have some performance over the shopping mall, which is really experimental.
It's experimental because we are blessed that Sound Pocket has come last year at the May, and they just pushing the boundary of how can we doing art, making art in such a community in a shopping mall. It's quite difficult because you have to deal with them. They didn't know what art is. Actually, they didn't know what experimental art is. So, especially they are doing song art. It may be annoying. It may be have a heavy noise there. How you deal with them and how to bring that another way of seeing of just maybe a very pretty painting and lovely sculpture, except that what art could be. Yeah, so I think it's quite experimental for having performance in a shopping mall, but we mainly do performance at night. After that, at December, we do a collaboration with Landscape and also Gary and Darren, and they just do a performance, but we haven't told the office. We just do it by ourselves at night, and I just say, just do it. Don't let them know, because if you let them know, maybe they have many restrictions on them, and you have to take a lot of time to deal with those administration or something like that, I guess.
But after all, they're okay.
It's
security.
okay because they know what we are doing, and
That's really good.
Yeah, I think somehow someone can be a model for us to go further for the experimental. Yeah, so I think it's quite good for that. Yeah.
Daniel, when you said you will come to Hong Kong for a residency before, what is the residency program? Because 1A Space also do residency.
The residency was actually in Beijing, not in Hong Kong. I came to Hong Kong during that time. There's not too many residencies still and also if the 1A residency is open to local artists, right? It's not.
So we have artists living and working in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And then, so that's our in-person residency that we developed during the sort of the semi-lockdown period. But then we also do an online residency, and that's in collaboration with Pro Helvetia, which is a Swiss arts center in Shanghai. So we do both in-person and virtual residency, both local and international, and they're quite different in terms of outcome and the process as well.
Yeah, in Hong Kong, it's very lack of artist in residency program, also because of the rent.
Yeah.
That's very true.
With one thing I'm curious about the Rooftop Institute, how does your, now we have the end of May, Do you
Yes.
know what you're gonna do for the rest of the year? Like how long ahead do you plan?
Okay. Yeah. Usually we planned one. We are waiting for the. Every year we have two deadlines, like the like June or December. We will apply the funding usually this time, and then after we apply, we wait for the result for the coming year. So we know what we are doing until it is have funding. So this month we don't know. Next month we should know. Yeah, we are waiting for this result. But not just money rise. I mean, by the funder, we also do collaborations. For example, this is Artist Parents Project. We collaborate with Tai Kun, and then to do the family day, which we invite artists to do a participatory workshop with the parents and the children through the artwork to do some exercise to understand some ideas of. But actually, our main concept is to use art as a communication to facilitate between your family. So we do collaboration too. But of course, because our members mostly are artists, so half of the time we do rooftop program, half of the time we do our art project. Yes.
One thing that came up a couple of times is the term independent art spaces, and it's interesting in a way that we are on a panel or on some sort of talk regarding independent art spaces. So that's the umbrella where all of our projects are put into, in a way. Yet I feel all 5 projects are quite different, and I'm still, even though I sit here, I'm still not quite sure what an independent space actually is or how to define this independence. So maybe that's something to talk about.
How do you think? You run one A space is running for like 2 decades. Yes.
Well, I guess the way 1A Space was founded was by a group of artists who wanted to carve out a space for artists. So it was an artist-run space for artists, and they sort of see themselves fit between the gap of institutions and commercial galleries. But so that's how I can answer your question under 1A Space. But I think the term independent space begs to be revisited, because there isn't really truly a space that is independent. We're either dependent on funding, dependent on the artist support. I can only see it as independent as opposed to something else, but then there's no such thing as truly independent space. Alternative, maybe, but that's how I see it.
Yeah. In terms of funding, I run Parallel Space without any funding. Yeah, I use my money, and then I don't intend to get any funding from the government. I run this space. I really want to run it by myself without any sponsorship from the ADC or any And some artists, they are maybe having an exhibition proposal. They are asking funding from the ADC or any other organizations. It's okay to rent my space, yes. So, but mainly, if you, in terms of financing, I think Parallel Space is a kind of independence, because I don't rely on any money from outside, yeah. And then the artists, they choose to exhibit in my space, in Parallel Space. I think they have a strong characteristic that they're quite like indie illustrators, you know, that they're not from the academic, or they do artworks not for selling. Sometimes they just want to do the works, and then okay, there is the space. Let's try to do an exhibition and see if it can sell it or not. And then just like Little Thunder, she did a very successful exhibition in Paris space, and then Madong and another local illustrators, and then also a couple of photographers like Deacon. He did an exhibition with his own photograph book selling in my space, and then this is all kind of like a DIY space, like a DIY space. Things happen in Paris space that make us as a very close to the independent art space, something like that. Yeah. This is what I can say. Yeah.
I think for me, independent art space means we have more freedom, and we should do experimentations on to bring some new perspective or to break through some boundaries. Because if we are the formal, like already have some structure, we have to decide the KPI or anything. We can evaluate what is this value before we bring out. It's like formal education. It's very systematic. But what is lack of is the get to do some failure or some experiment, so that we know what is we can try. So I think for us, it is this freedom and very important to do our organization. For example, we decide a framework of a program, exchange program, and then one time is very interesting is we invite a Japanese artist, and then all the program is about artist talk, and then artists do a program workshop, and then we will go to his home country to do a travel, 10 days travel with the artist to know about the country, know about the culture, and then we come back to do a sharing exhibition. But what happened in that 10-day trip, right? We didn't decide, and then end up we do a road trip all the way to the Japan, Shikoku, and then we do a radio program with the student together to review every day what we will discover. So if we already decide every structure thing, I mean, what is the meaning or KPI, all this thing, we cannot do this experiment. Yeah, but this is more natural way to evolve with the audience, with the idea, and do experiment. Yeah. Not every time successful, of course, but yeah, I treasure this freedom. Yeah.
For me, it's same. I think some kind independent art space is different from the institute, that we can do a lot of kind of experiment of art. But I think I don't define it's commercial or non-commercial. I think both can be for independent art space for a longer sustainable. So and I think the autonomous is first priority to having how we can decide to select what we want to do, what exhibition we want to put in the space, or even we are changing in trend for having what kind of, from maybe we miss first stage, we just imply a lot of pop culture and popular culture topics in our space, and recently we have a little change on experiment, but it still stick on the pop culture. We hope that, because we still in the community in a shopping mall, you can say that. So I hope that the audience can taste a different kind of arts. What we actually art professional can do it, but more than a retail shop can do it. I think this some kind is a bit different from the retail shop and what an artist run art space is. Yeah.
Hi, I'm going to use this opportunity to open up to the audience. Does anyone have any questions for our speakers?
Thank you for your sharing. Can you hear? Okay. Thank you for your sharing. I also thought there are many challenge and difficulty for running the independent art space in Hong Kong. But I still would like to know if do you have any suggestion for young talents who want to establish their own independent art space in Hong Kong? Do you have any suggestion or sharing about that? Thank you. For me 咧就the financially first law, because if you really want a space, why a space? How big? If you have a really can answer your questions, it's not just form a space and then something will happen, you know. And what is your your missions, and what is the culture you want to curate, or what is the people you want to gather, then if you can answer, and then when you answer you find, oh, that's already few space like this, why I want this, so you have to answer what is true to your situations. It's very difficult to make money, to be honest. Maybe you have more suggestion.
My suggestion is why you want to make the art space at first. I think with a little bit passion, you can do that.
Little bit passion.
I think passion is some kind of, you have to have for the first priority to run an independent art space. And second part, maybe just what Siu Fong has said, what you want to develop for your art space, which audience you want to approach, for community or just for artists. I think this might be I guess.
I mean, I agree with both of you. I think it's about the why, not about, the how will come later, but then maybe obviously the why comes from within, but one can also actually go talk to the artists and ask them what is it that they need and what can you do for them to see where one can anchor oneself. And again, I also agree that opening an independent art space is really admirable. It is not like being a venture capitalist. It's not going to make money, let's just be honest, and taking care of yourself financially is also very important. Like, we all have to eat, right?
But I think if you plan it short, it's good. Maybe 1 year plan. If you achieve it, then you should keep going. Or a 2 year plan, then you make you more easy. Then you can enjoy the process.
Yeah, I think because the word sustainability was mentioned a couple of times, I think you don't need to overthink it initially and try to. It's gonna be really hard if you try to think in 10 years terms, or like how to create something and grow it or whatever. But you can. I don't think the individual space has to be sustainable, to be honest. Like, stuff shuts down and other things open up again. I think you can, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Can you share a bit more why you want to have an art space?
Yeah.
Just to exchange some idea.
Not really. Actually, I'm just graduated from university master courses. So, but I'm thinking, because I feel you have your passion in this in this field to make an art space and during some curatorial projects, something like that. So I'm just thinking, what can I do else for this society or in this cultural and arts field? Yeah. So I'm not really planning to open an independent art space, but I'm also thinking, what can I do in this field, actually.
Okay.
So thank you for your sharing. Thank you.
Or maybe just do something with your friends that share your same mission. Then this is more important than a project, maybe. First with some friends first.
Are there any other questions?
Okay, yeah, hi, I had a question. About artist residency. So rent, we all know how expensive rent is in Hong Kong and how difficult. There were a few residencies running that during the pandemic stopped, including the one that I was beginning. But do you know of any initiatives in Hong Kong that where it goes beyond just having an artist come sleep in a space and work in a space, but in terms of space sharing, where an artist can come in for a period of time into a space and work there? Because in the States where I'm from and parts of Europe, sometimes an artist just who's local can make use of a space for a particular period of time. Do you know of any initiatives like that here that can function?
Actually, I tried to research that like 10 years ago, and then it's so limited. It is so small. That's why Rooftop initially is want to do cultural exchange with Asia, is want to bring up this continued exchange. But after we try, it's still very difficult. Actually, I can say there's no continued space for artist residency. Usually by invitation, by if you know someone, or yeah, so really don't have an open source for me.
Yeah, I can't really think of anywhere in Hong Kong that does that, but which answers your question. So this is the need, and maybe you can do that.
Yes.
Or, yeah, I usually it's just a period of residency.
Yeah, they are discontinued. Maybe
Yeah.
just very short time.
Yeah. But that's a really good question, because like also residency can be looked at like what does it really mean to do a residency, and does it have to be artists come in and sleep, or can it be like a virtual residency where it's more about focusing on networking, or it's like I know the word residency means physically being there, but then to help artists, which is essentially what it's for, can be taken in so many different shapes.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more.
So I think virtual residencies were talked about, and I don't really know what that really is about or how the process is with that. Could you kind of explain or break down the process between a physical and a virtual residency?
Yeah, sure. So there are quite a few virtual residencies out there. The one we did largely based on making connections and conversations. So the artist is from Switzerland. So we lined him up with different curators, artists, alternative art space organizers, to talk about the projects that the artist is doing. So we have one main person and then a whole bunch of different little guests who can give different input. So kind of like Im Sui Fong, what you're saying, to not have things planned out at the beginning and just give it a little bit of freedom. We have a loose structure at the beginning, and then as the conversation goes, the artist is like, oh, actually I want to talk to that person more, his research is more interesting, and that conversation lead to another person. So it was really free in terms of the structure. One thing that came out of it, which is really interesting, was how the artist thought about his relationship with Hong Kong while he's not in Hong Kong. So he's really interested in this Wan Ying Hong Kong, like the Hong Kong light show that happens every night, and then he watches it every day like clockwork, and then he would like look at the weather, because he's interested in laser lights projects like that. And so, like I live in Hong Kong for many years and I've honestly never seen it. I know it's really cool, but just there are ways to form relationship with the city without being there. And obviously it's not a replacement of in-person residency, but it's just, with like all the necessary fly-ins and everything, it does open up a new way of thinking about residency, I think. I hope I answered your question. Yeah.
Was there anything else? Any other questions? Maybe I'll just quickly jump in with one last one. The word audience engagement got thrown around earlier. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how you each develop audiences for your spaces. Do you use Instagram, or is it more organic? sort of word of mouth?
Parallel Space mainly use Instagram. Yeah, we even did an exhibition called hashtag photographer. We asked 16 persons from Instagram to provide their artwork for us, and then we make exhibitions with all their photos. Yeah. So we don't have a website. The domain name is jumped to the Instagram page. And then I mainly promote my exhibition in Instagram. Yes, yes. Right.
For me, it was actually quite surprising how fast it started, in the sense that how many people showed up from day one, basically, which I think part of it is also the fact that I hope that's not the only reason, but a lot of other things were just shut down. So, because like when I started, it was, and it still is, you have to make a reservation at least a day in advance. Like, I would not be the best visitor to my own space, because I feel like I'm asking a lot from people, you know, like, but on the other hand, that's the only way it works. And yeah, I think it's a lot of word of mouth, and yeah.
For Miss, I think we also mainly focus on Instagram, and maybe some share from friends, and some free platforms. I guess they have some free event platform like Tiny Ball and Cool like that. So yeah, mainly is that. Yeah.
I want to know too how to get more audience.
Yeah, how to? Oh, maybe just
But
put
when-
on some advertisement.
Yeah, one time we do Facebook ad is quite good.
Yeah.
We can switch to different field. Otherwise, it's mainly by word of mouth.
Yeah. I mean, I feel this is also time to give shout out to Free Walk-In. They do a lot of listing, and they're very meticulous with everything, list everything on social media. So it's like community helping each other out as well.
Free walking.
Free Walk-In.
That is like word of mouth is kind of like a very short version to say there are a lot of people in Hong Kong who do like not for profit, just you know, like keeping people updated and making lists and visits, and yeah.
Yeah. Asama.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think on that note, we're going to wrap it up there. So thank you so much to all of our speakers.
Yeah.
And that actually wraps up the whole Gokdu Live series here at Art Central for 2022. So thank you so much to our speakers who've spoke over the last 5 days, and we very much look forward to welcoming everyone back in 2023. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
哇，飲下水。